All right. Good evening, everybody. We're going to go live here in just a second with my guest, Anna Geoffroy. And for any of you who were having trouble pronouncing that name, that is how it's pronounced. Um, she helped organize a local event here in our hometown against our local fascists. But our local fascists aren't just a local problem. They organize all over the New England area and also went to the events down in DC, including going inside of the Capitol. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. So let's bring on our guest. Here we go. Hello, hello. So, for everyone out there, you will remember Anna. She has already been on this show. She was on a lot of my earlier podcasts, including replacing me in multiple events when I was sick or anything else, because this is my wife. So, we are in other rooms of the same house. Audio problems and all that.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable.
Absolutely. As for what are the numbers on the countdown, they are simply there because when you have a flat image like that on video, people sometimes wonder if the stream has frozen or not. So you put something that's moving, so it shows that the stream is not frozen. So the counter is like meaningless. It's just there for that good old McStabbo. So tonight we are going to talk about local organizing against fascists, against people who went down to DC, people who in our own area, the Boston greater area, organize all of the major events. They live in our hometown of Malden. And an event was organized for yesterday, actually, that brought light to the fact that fascism is a local thing, that it is not just even at the Boston level, but here in Malden, it is literally a small town thing. So that's what I brought Anna on to talk about, being that she helped organize this event. For an idea of the tone of the event, I wanted to start off with a little video that showed Anna giving part of her speech yesterday, if you're okay with that, Anna.
I guess I have to be.
So, for everyone on the stream, here we go.
It has been 4 years. It has been 4 years of there being Nazis out in the street. And people telling me, are you sure they're Nazis? Are you sure they're Nazis? And they flew us on in red in front of the State House. They wore their SS tattoos. And then they went and they stormed the Capitol. No more. No more gaslighting the activists in your life. No more cowardice. No more being afraid to say you're anti-fascist. Being against fascism is good. Embrace it. Thank you all for being here today. I love you all.
So there we are. That was, just part of the amazing speech that Anna gave. A lot of us talked at the event. We've got a really good working kind of relationship on this type of stuff. Sometimes I'm working on other things, you're working on things. So I didn't know this event was happening until it was well along, like its path to being, a thing. So kind of what was the impetus that brought this about? Like who was the group that decided this needed to happen? How did you get the word out?
So, obviously Wednesday happened, and I think a lot of us spent a lot of Wednesday shell-shocked, because even if you knew this was a possibility, even if you knew that Wednesday was going to be a rough day, how bad it got was still a lot to process. By Thursday, I was talking with some people and everybody's like, what are we going to do? And I reached out to Chris Fernandez, who is the current chair of Our Revolution Malden. I was like, hey, we should do something. I want to check in with you. Let's talk. And between him and a couple other people, it became clear that there was going to be a protest. And it's hard to say whose idea it even was. But once we hit that point. There was a core group that was myself, Chris, Carrie McDonald, who is on the Malden Police Alternatives and Accountability Group, and Jeff Taylor, who's another member of our Rev Malden. And I actually host a poetry night with him. So I know him from a couple places. And the four of us got together, and the conversation went past midnight on Thursday as we're trying to decide, okay, what are we doing? When are we going to do it? And we settled on doing it Sunday, even though like that's very short time frame. And for anybody who's organized an event before, you know, like deciding on Thursday you're going to do something on Sunday is insanity.
Yes.
And especially when you're in the situation like we were this week where everybody's a little shaky. So yeah, I think we'd had longer to plan. We probably would have gotten a better turnout, but our turnout was actually pretty good, you know, under the circumstances.
For a couple
we did get a lot of
days
people.
In a small local town, 75 people is not bad at all.
Yeah. Yeah, we did have a lot of people reach out after the fact, like, if I'd known, I would have been there. So, you know, a little bit more planning maybe would have gotten around, you know, the 200 mark, which would have been cool. But for something with very little time and, you know, a very small core group, Chris had actually never organized a protest before, but he was willing to put his name on the event page, which was really important. I definitely come from the Anon side of things, and every time it's like somebody needs to put their name on something, I go, how do I not it? And Chris was wonderful in stepping up for that, but he also, like, he didn't just figurehead, he did a great job actually running the mic and learning all the steps. And,
yeah,
you know,
he was really good.
Yeah, no, he's definitely up and comer. I'm here for him.
For people who don't know, when she says like the Anon stuff, like me and her actually met at an anonymous protest, so you know, yay anonymous. But yeah, so the event was really interesting in that I hate the word, but it's the easiest word to describe it. A lot of prominent members of local society were there, you know. We had members of the city council, we had the mayor, you know, many influential people who run local groups like Malden Core, which is a group that attempts to fight, you know, racism and educate against it.
It's community organized for racial equity.
Exactly, and so it's there were a lot of people there who we wanted to get a little more educated on exactly who's in our actual community that they should be looking out for, and maybe working against instead of with in any moment that they might run into them. So in our local community, we have Mark Sahady. And Mark runs a group called Super Happy Fun America. He lives a mile from us, you know, not far at all, right down the street, basically. Like, I can point at his house. It's over there. And Super Happy Fun America is run by him, a guy named Samson, and a guy named John Hugo. And they organized events in Boston like the... Well, like the, what do you call it? The Straight Pride Parade, which of course was as anti-LGBT aware as possible. I mean, they just, wow.
But Greg, they had Milo.
They did have Milo.
Milo's gay.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, so Milo's complaining now all over the internet that that they're poor and they can no longer afford things, and that sites like Parler going down and other sites banning them have made them broke. And, you know, maybe being a hate-filled neo-Nazi lover does that. Maybe you should understand that your actions have consequences. Yeah, so for the chat there, yeah, we are really close to having the partner thing where we will be guaranteed that those options always appear. So if you all could get like 600 people to watch tonight, that would fix it. Like, there you go. See, so it's all up to you, chat. No, but yeah, I will have that fixed for next week's episodes on the video quality, in that it's a little too high for some people. So yeah, so locally we have Mark Sahady. He lives right down the street and organizes all of these types of events. Now, he has all kinds of arguments that he thinks are wonderful, stating that he's only for free speech. and that he throws events that are pro-Trump, pro-free speech, pro-America, pro-flag, and that if Nazis happen to show up at his events, well, he didn't want them there. But then you look at the Nazis, the literal Nazis, because we actually have National Socialists here in the Boston area who call themselves the NSC 131 group, and they are made up of people like Chris Hood, and he helps run the group. He used to be in the groups that became Super Happy Fun America, in that it has changed from name to name to name to name. So going back years, Chris Hood, Andrew Petrocelli, all these local Nazis who have Hitler tattoos, eagle's nest tattoos, SS lightning bolts, and all the other things on their bodies. They would go to every event that Sahedi organized, and you can't really say I don't work with these people if you were openly working with them and coordinating with them, and you only decided to say I'm no longer working with them because they changed shirts. They're still the same people, and you know exactly what they believe, and you knew what they believed. Just because they put on a shirt with the logo, you can't suddenly distance yourself. That's as stupid as, the DHF chief today, Chad Wolf, resigning with only days to go. Like, that's going to somehow remove the stink of working for Trump for so long. Like, no. It's just, no. You can't. You are working with neo-Nazis. They show up to your events. You throw them. The end.
And that's not to say that you can't step back from the Nazi ledge. There are people who are former, white nationalist extremists, and they got themselves out of that cult. But there's a lot of self-work you need to do, and there's a lot of restoring, people that you've hurt in the process, and for somebody like Sahedi to say like, oh well, I just throw free speech events, blah, 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 where he emboldens all these overt Nazis to show up. The only way you can step back from any of that is if you stop throwing parties for Nazis. Say sorry for throwing all those Nazi parties. And he won't do that because
they're all his friends.
It's not just that they're all his friends. When we did this protest, one of the things that we talked about was white supremacy, which is a scary thing that people don't like to talk about because it actually addresses some of the problems that are underlying things and isn't just let's punch a Nazi. And I addressed this in part of the speech that I don't think made it to that video. There's this undercurrent in all of the alt-right, neo-Nazi, whatever, that is sort of at the core of white supremacy and a bunch of other intersectional problems, where it's the idea that there is something that is normal. There is a way to be normal, and being normal is good. And you'll sometimes see people who are not white or not straight aligning with these people, and it's because they believe that they can expand the definition of normal to include them, and then shit on everybody who's outside of normal. And it's really important for us to challenge the notion that there is any normal way to be as a human. Being white isn't normal any more than being black or being brown is normal, or being Asian is normal. There is no normal. They're just different sets of genes, almost identical, very little difference there. There's no one right sex or sexuality to have. There's no one right language to speak. There's no one right country to be from. And so when you talk with respectable people, and especially when you talk with liberal moms, which is one of the places where I try to do some of my labor, you have to talk with them about attacking that, because these aren't people who are going to go and yell at Nazis. These people aren't going to picket Mark Sahedi's house. They're not going to go to a counter protest. They would cry if they got hit with tear gas or pepper spray. They're not. And that's fine. There's lots and lots of ways to be anti-fascist, and only a couple of them involve putting your body on the line.
Right.
Yeah. Really, all it takes is be against fascism, which is a good thing. It's good to be against fascism and be willing to do something about it.
Yes, it is. Thanks for the gifted sub there, and thanks for the follow, Goose Baldine. Yes. Um, yeah, so the idea, on Sunday, which I really liked, was, people pushing the idea that being anti-fascist, especially at this point, but always should have been, is normal, and that this whole idea that Antifa is a bad thing in any way is not. In fact, that is the new thing. That is weird. So I don't know. One of the things that that I found weird was none of them showed up. I thought they would at least be around the corner or pay a little attention, the various local fascists, because surprisingly in the Boston area, we have a lot of fascists, even though this is a massive blue state and goes like 90% blue in all the major elections.
Is it that surprising that the state that had this much trouble desegregating the schools is kind of full of racist people?
No, just for a lot of people who don't know those facts of its history and just know now that it is so blue. I hear a lot from people in other states when I mention this, like, you don't have, no, we do have fascists, right-wingers, Nazis, like all the bad guys, all the alt-right, they're all right here in the Boston area.
Yep.
Yeah, so one of the more fun things that that came out of the event for me was I had conversations with multiple people on the ground who, again, like I said earlier, are kind of prominent in the local community, and some of them had never heard the names of the fascists in our area, and so I went a little late in the lineup of people who spoke because I wanted to see if anyone else named these people first, and if not, make sure they got named. So the first thing I did when I got up there after reading a quote about the paradox of tolerance was to name Mark Sahady and say, look, this guy lives 20-minute walk that way, and it was really important to me to make sure that these people knew that. And afterward, talking to a few of them about the fact that they literally did not know that that family was, doing most of this. It's just, it was good to get them on board with an understanding. One of the funnier things I saw today was on Twitter, someone found flyers that are up on all the flagpoles and all the light posts and everything else, street lamps and whatnot in town, about, Mark Sahady and about him being a known writer from the Capitol who went into the Capitol, posted it on Twitter, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting. There are some people who've been aware of what he's doing. Obviously, Greg and I have been aware, but that some people in the community have been yelling for a while that this person is here and is a problem. But this was the first time that, like, the mayor had to hear that we have a white supremacist who lives here. We had 3 city councilors, one of whom chose to speak, which was hilarious because he was extremely, center liberal, yay Biden, and then he was immediately followed by one of the DSA guys who came to help with security and who was incredibly radical, and the dichotomy in their 2 speeches was
amazing.
Just amazing.
Oh my god. Yes, so
I don't know if I would have wanted either one of them to speak if I was controlling to the mic.
Right.
But the 2 together was perfect, and I am now glad that both of them took that risk because, like the chat was saying, trying to interface between like the radicals and the liberals is hard, and we do have common ground in that we really don't want these Nazis organizing events and radicalizing, people in our communities and generally harassing every Black, brown, queer, not like Jewish person that exists. I would love to talk a little bit about, I see in the chat here, there's some stuff about the racial history of the Boston area, and that is actually relevant and very interesting, but only if we got time for it, Greg.
You can talk about whatever you want.
Okay. So, Jeremy McWormy, I can say words, asked if there were a lot of Irish gangs in Boston, and Cesar Argus was asking, it's a pretty white state. So Massachusetts, overall, fairly white state, absolutely. The interesting thing about Massachusetts and the Boston area in particular is you have these two groups that are historically referred to as ethnic whites, which would be the Irish and Italian populations. And in Malden, I've actually seen the old red line map. For those of you who aren't familiar with a red line map, this is where they would take a map of your city or town, whatever the area, and they would mark out, this neighborhood is good. We'll give people mortgages here. This neighborhood is bad. And they just mark it by what race lived there, literally. And the section of town that we live in is actually marked as being full of ethnic whites. And that history follows us to today. And it's really important to keep that in mind, because the moment in history when Irish and Italian people became white also marks when there was a lot of the civil rights movement and everything else. The people who were in charge, the normal people, needed more people to holler at these brown people for them. And so they opened up what normal was just enough to let in, my ancestors, I am partially of Irish descent, to come and fight their fight for them. So
yes, when you speak about, specifically when the Irish became white, you're not, speaking in any terms of like, over the span of this many years, they all, lost their tans. We're talking about the fact that when the Irish first started, coming to America in quite large numbers, the existing white community here did not accept them as part of the white community. They treated them no better than any other minority community was getting treated at the time. And we all know how badly minority communities were getting treated at that time. It was only when the minority communities started growing to sizes that were, basically uncontrollable by the white majority, that they suddenly decided that the Irish were with them.
And part of that is because, the Irish and Italian populations both chose assimilation. They chose to lose their accents to, participate. There are still some people of Irish and of Italian descent who try to hold on to some of that heritage, but in queer circles, a lot of times people talk about the difference between, assimilation and liberation. On the one side, it's like, how can we make being gay normal? And on the other side is like, being gay should be cool. You shouldn't have to be normal. And it's I'm really frustrated that we still have to do like the most basic, like, don't shoot Black people on the street and leave them there to die level talking about racism. Because there's so many more complicated things around what race is and how racism works, and we're still stuck in like not even 101. We're in like the remedial human beings deserve not to be shot on the street level.
Yeah, it is a complicated topic, but it's a little easier once you understand that normal is mostly an insulting word. To everyone who isn't included in the group you are calling normal. And that out group that you aren't considering normal is usually way larger than the one you are considering normal. So people should really take that to heart and stop using that word to describe groups of humans like that.
And when you know that normal tends to be a dog whistle for like some shitty white supremacist or, homophobic, transphobic, you start seeing it in the places where you're like, I thought that guy might be kind of nuts, but I'm not sure. And then when they start saying like, make normalcy okay again at the straight pride parade, you see it for what it is. It's not just, well, bugger, I want a parade, but I can't go to the gay parade because I'm not gay, so I'll just make my own parade. It's, I want there to be a normal. I want normal to be elevated above not normal, and I want gays to not be normal.
Yeah, and I mean the arguments that Super Happy Fun America had for their straight pride parade were all around the erasure of their way of life, the replacement of normal with something they found odd, the cancel culture around anyone who didn't agree, the erasing of the Christian value system that they hold so dear, that holds that gay people might not be accepted, and it was all bigoted. They had no arguments that couldn't in some way be attributed to bigotry and or just straight pure hate. And that was it's always interesting to see, like you brought up earlier, people like Milo, who is he's not faking it. Milo is gay. He is out and flamboyant and gay, and he's there at their events because that's where the money was for him. And I honestly think he was a grifter the whole time. I think stupid, but also grifter.
I don't believe that personally. I have had enough experience with what we tend to refer to as the white gays.
Right.
It's really easy for somebody who is only, to use the problematic terms here, one standard deviation from normal.
Right.
To exist as a shield for people in these groups with all these hateful views, so they can say, oh no, well, we have a gay guy, we can't be homophobic, we have a gay guy. And the gay guy has still bought into this idea that there is a normal. He just wants to make sure that normal includes gay guys, but just gay guys like him, not the really queer ones, just him.
Yeah. Which
and
is
so I think it was at least somewhat
he's relatively flamboyant in his dress at these events. So but I can agree with that. It's an interesting one. Just following through and trying to find logic in their bigotry and hatred is really tough. So I kind of gave up on that and just call them what they are. They are hateful. They are racist. They are bigots. Now, on this local level, obviously, funny things have happened. I have a thread on Twitter that has hundreds of retweets and likes and comments and all that stuff, where images of Mark Sahady on the bus to DC, partway there at a rest stop, and then walking up to the Capitol building and then inside the Capitol building are posted. And there's a lot of people in there screaming that, you shouldn't be giving this information out because, you're doxing them to the feds. And I'm like, I don't care what happens to a Nazi, racist, right-wing, Trump-supporting, Q-loving nutbag. I hope he gets all that's coming to him. And nothing coming to him is good. But here's the funny thing. The person who runs Super Happy Fun America with him and does a lot more of the organizing when it comes to things that take intelligence, like figuring out what permit they need, Samson, he woke up yesterday morning at around 6 a.m. Now, how do I know this? Well, that's a little early, and he's a former, military, and so I'm sure getting up that early is normal for him. But he went on Twitter and started liking the complaints against my post. And so I get to see, Samson liked this, Samson liked that. And I thought it was...
Does he think that's going to do something?
No, I just thought it was hilarious. Like, it was, getting to watch him liking all the complaints on that post was funny to me. It almost made making the post worth more to me than just for its own sake. So Parler. Parler is interesting for so many reasons. We talked about some of them on Friday with Kurt and with Mac, but a lot has changed. Now officially it is actually offline. There are pieces of it that are still online somehow. but you have to be accessing it via API endpoints to find them. But the server you could download the videos from was still up until late this afternoon, not down at noon or at midnight last night like everything else was. So on the back end, that allowed a group of people collecting data to download over 1 million videos from Parler using their API that the iOS app normally used to grab them all. And they grabbed not only all of the videos and images, but the funniest thing they did was they were able to grab the original uploaded files, not the file that had been processed and then shown to users. So they grabbed the file that was uploaded, which means it still has all the metadata and location data and names of like when you have your camera and you put your name into like the thing there and then it tags your videos and images with it. All of that is still on these videos and on the images. And better than that still, every deleted parlay, which is what they call their version of a tweet, was also in the dataset downloaded. Because the endpoint they had access to literally was just unfettered access. It didn't even require like login details or you to like cookie stuff or anything from a cookie you downloaded out of your web browser into it because you had logged in. Nothing. It was just the app was able to connect to an endpoint that we didn't know existed until someone watched its traffic, and so they got all of that data. And there are a lot of groups from multiple national organizations, journalists, hate group watchers, and all these people going through that data now, hunting for all the people who went into the Capitol. And I think that's hilarious, personally. And then it got done just under the wire. Like, they finished hours before everything was gone.
I mean, lowercase f in the chat, right?
Yeah, definitely lowercase f in the chat. It's just a video, literally. When they say podcast but with video, they're just talking about literally this. I mean, I record this and then I put it up on YouTube. Same thing. But now here's where it gets interesting. A few days ago, you guys might have remembered last week, twice during the week when we knew on Wednesday and on Friday that Parler was probably going down, I joked, I joked about where Parler was going. And if anyone in the chat remembers where I said they would end up and who would be hosting them, he has a funny name. We were right. There is only one place they can go and only one company that will support them now. And so they are going to Epic, EPIK, and they are going to be hosted by Rob Monster. And I still think it is hilarious that his real name is Monster, and it is. Tell
me that's not his given name, please.
I believe it is. Epic hosting is where they're moving. It is the same place that hosts Gab. And as you can see how Gab is currently handling the load, not very well, slow, dying, having trouble registering, and all that fun stuff. We can only imagine how well Parler does with 10x the users on their various platforms.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
They're working on migrating in that direction now, and we'll see what that looks like. But
it's not like the user base is upset and going to post a lot when they show back up or anything.
Right. Yeah. Also, Gab is interesting in that it is not in any way set up correctly to handle scale. It is hosted on their own hardware on a few servers, no horizontal scaling. It's bad. I think, Aaron Arn is not wrong in the chat there. I think with Parler heading to Epic, it will only make both of them worse by filling that network up with way more traffic than it can handle. But that will be fun to watch how bad that is without all of AWS's built-in automated, CDNs, because like doing scaling on AWS is, quote, simple compared to, not simple for the average everyday human, but simple in terms of scaling on your own. Because you can make it have images of your server that is just like, here's my whole operating system. If I hit this much load, meaning, here's 100% of what I can handle, I get to 80, just turn on another server and split the traffic between them. And you can do that in about 10 minutes of work. Building that out yourself is not as easy. And they're going to have a lot of fun trying to get stuff like that working over on Epic. So we'll see how well they handle that.
Can I ask Miss McStabbo a favor in the chat? Because they just brought up, fun fact, Trump is banned from TikTok, which implies he had a TikTok. I heard a rumor that Trump got banned or restricted on Spotify,
Yes.
and I'm super curious if that's true.
Very true.
Okay, I can't Google it from here.
Yeah. That is absolutely true. So that is hilarious to me personally.
What is he putting together playlists that are just like recordings of himself being, vomiting his nonsense? How do you get restricted on Spotify?
I don't even know at this point. I am going to post this into the chat. Yeah, so anyways, so Parler is supposedly moving to Epic. I only say supposedly because it's been announced. It's what's happening. However, I just don't know if they're successfully going to relaunch the service or not. We'll see. It was really interesting watching the amount of violence that was threatened near the end as people's anger at losing the accounts that they had spent so much time building up, for the last 2 years on that service, got stronger and stronger. Watching good old Dan Bongo there getting super angry on TV today was a lot of fun, as people were destroying my investment in Parler and, all his other arguments about, the amount of money he was grifting out of the right being taken away from him. Oh, no. So, in-house they do have in-house developers, and they actually had multiple job openings just even as of last month for more developers. But they have the problem of technical debt, even though it's only 2 years of just dealing with scale at a level that they weren't prepared for. 2 million users, their scale was working for. 6, it was not. But then you also run into their whole system is kind of like a little house on stilts that's about to fall over after no maintenance for 200 years. It's like tilting like this, because knocking it offline, I watched people knock it offline with 5 minutes work and no DDoS, no tax, just literally the right request sent to an API and it's gone. So, they still have a lot of work to do on that front. Not that I'm hoping they actually get it done, just that, if they're going to, it's still going to be a hell of a lot of work.
Look, everything that the right does cost resources, right? It costs money to get buses to go down to ZC, those stupid flagpoles that they bought to, beat cops half to death with, or in some cases all the way to death with. Those cost money. Their bad hats cost money, everything else. If we can get them to just put all their money in one pile and light it on fire, which is what putting money into Parler is right now, then I'm all for that, because that's less resources they could use for, I don't know, something where somebody might actually get hurt.
Yeah, one of the interesting, another one from...
Tastes balls, I'm sorry. Well, I don't care. I don't care. They're bad people and they deserve it.
They are bad people. I mean, yeah, they are bad people. Just for the video, chat should see one of my favorite images of the day. So I'm gonna put it over my favorite image of the last week. But for everyone wanting to see one of my favorite images, I'm gonna name it this. And I'm going to go grab it from here. There you go, chat. Do you love it? Because I love it. Because that's hilarious.
I don't know. Chat says it didn't really happen, and now I'm just disappointed in chat.
I think that is awesome, and I love it. And
I'm just gonna accept Taser nuts as headcanon, and I'm not on a jury. I don't matter.
right. So that is one of my favorite images from the day. The image that I have been posting way too much today in response to everyone, and I posted it a lot on Parler over the last few days, is this one. And I think this one is quite amazing. It is the perfect sentiment to all of the people who were complaining on Parler. I posted this in the comments on Parler about 7,000 times, I think, in the last 2 days. It was my favorite thing ever. So like, it's been a good day for meme images and a good kind of last few days for them, because that one's awesome.
Oh no, the QAnon shaman guy do the one where he's yelling and somebody captions it. Where's the clitoris?
Right? Oh, that one was amazing.
That was good.
My God. Hi, Amanda. You are wonderful. Yeah, so I just think some of these are hilarious. It's been fun. But one of my favorite things to watch these last few days has been people trying to leave DC, finding out they're on no-fly lists and can't get on planes, or getting dragged off planes when it's figured out that they shouldn't have been allowed on the plane in the first place. So there's tons of videos going out. You can find them all over Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else. Of people like, just at the Delta terminal being told, you're on a no-fly list. You are stuck in D.C. until investigations are over. I have found their tears nothing but hilarious. As someone who was on a no-fly list for quite a long time, back when, before prison and all that. Yeah, anyways, I know what it feels like, and I think it's hilarious that it's happening to insurrectionists who, let's call them what they are, domestic terrorists. Domestic terrorists should be on the no-fly list. I think it's why it exists. There should not be as many people on this list. Like, let's make it, 1/100th of the size it is, but let's make sure they remain on it.
Part of the...
Nice, thanks, Doxy. Gifted subs. Everyone gets subs.
Part of the problem with, the security insanity, the surveillance culture that we're in is like, how could you, not that cops are good, but like, how could you even expect the cops to do anything when they insist on collecting the entire haystacks? Like, no, guys, just get the Nazis. Stop trying to collect everybody else's data and just get stupid fucking Nazis, because they say it out loud and in public all the time.
A lot of them are literally wearing uniforms at this point. Like, it's not hard. But,
some of them are wearing other uniforms.
We know why. A lot of, yeah, exactly. Some of them are wearing cop uniforms is why. When you look at a lot of the videos over the last few days that have come out about Wednesday, there's a lot of videos of a highly trained group of 8 or 9 guys just going around the crowds, going up to the buildings and all that fun stuff. And it has been figured out that that is a trained group of Oath Keepers who are all members of the Oath Keepers and who are obviously not keeping their oath. So that is fun. They are all in the works of getting doxxed by people all over the internet, and it will be fun to see what happens when they are.
Turns out the threat to the nation was coming from inside the Oath Keepers.
Yeah, definitely. Look at all of our friends in the chat. All right.
Rod Weber has a pressing question.
Yes. Under the
Last
hood.
I checked, it was in the trunk of his car, wasn't it?
Oh well, yeah, there is one in there too. But you
Rod
know,
keeps giant signs of things.
you gotta have your signs to mess with the bad guys in the trunk of your car. We have not talked about that, but yes, there are two Seattle cops on leave for their involvement.
There's one cop that got fired, from what I heard, as well as the two that are on leave.
There's one that's fired. The cop who has been seen in the Capitol videos and pictures taking selfies with the rioters and insurrectionists is now on leave pending investigation. And the cop that we heard supposedly was leading them around and taking them to Pelosi's office and to Schumer's office because they had no idea where those offices were in the building. That cop is also on leave pending investigation. So, I'm sure it's, standard police 101. They are still getting paid while on leave because their unions, do that.
Cops shouldn't have unions.
Indeed. I mean, it's been a wild ride. Now we've seen today, being, kind of the Monday after, is we've been watching them in Congress, in the Senate, and the House, work through putting the articles of impeachment up. So those have been filed. They have started the filing process to do the 25th Amendment. They have started the process to work up articles for actual censure and possible expulsion for multiple members of both sides of Congress. Who knows if that goes anywhere? I doubt it. These people are career politicians, and they don't want to set a precedent of people getting kicked out. Because, maybe it's used against them in the future, seems to be their argument.
Which I hate. Like,
it's a horrible argument.
Look, if you can't hold somebody accountable for fomenting insurrection against the government that they swore an oath to protect, like, none of those oaths matter at that point. Like if your oath of office does not matter at all if you aren't going to be held accountable for this. Of all the things that people need to be held accountable for in Congress, which lots and lots and lots of things. I wish we could just go back to yelling at them about normal things, but we have to, like, this is the level where all the Karens in the world are like, oh no, something is wrong. And they can't even get these fuckers held accountable for this. It's frustrating.
They all do love to talk about the deep state, but we have it's a weird situation with all of that. I'm just hoping that people like Ted Cruz, like Hawley, like Boebert, all of them actually get removed from office, as they should. The last time this level of insurrection was attempted, people were removed from office. I mean, that was a while ago, but that doesn't make it any less important. The government loves to bring up 100, 200-year-old precedent when they're filing cases against citizens. I mean, if you look at Barrett Brown's charges, when they got up to the 105 years of charges, one of the laws that was used against him was like 150 years old. So, they love to bring them out against us, but when we say you should use those old precedents against you, then they decide it's a little old. It doesn't work in the modern era. We've got to come up with new solutions. That's the double standard of our people in office.
One of the double standards I kind of got smashed up against, in my head. Obviously, everybody has said if these were black protesters, these were Black Lives Matter protesters, they'd all be dead. And yes, no question. Specifically, the fact that these people were fighting for white supremacy is the thing that protected them. But the woman who got shot, Babbitt, whatever, I don't care. She's a bitch, and the world's better off without her. But when she's shot, law enforcement comes over and starts trying to render aid, and as much as fuck her, she's a bad person, the world's better off without her, that is the correct thing to do. And it just makes you think of all the times, like, I can't even say all of the names, you know, Mike Brown, George Floyd, everybody were shot by law enforcement and then left to die on the street instead of being given the aid that they gave this insurrectionist who was invading. It makes that very clear, because it wasn't wrong that they helped her. It's just wrong that they don't extend the same fucking human decency to a 12-year-old child in a playground.
Yeah, you know, and Vilobian makes a good point in the chat, which is very important for us all to remember. We can't allow them to pass new laws related to this, because they will not only be used against the people you think are your enemies. They will be used mostly against lefties, mostly against our friends, mostly against us. They already have enough tools to deal with this. Some of them I don't even think they should have. The Patriot Act is a horrible piece of legislation, but they have the tools they need. Anyone arguing that they need more laws, anyone arguing that they need to pass amendments to existing laws, is lying in order to steal more power for the surveillance state.
Yep.
So, yeah, so we also saw another just slate over the last few days of people leaving the Trump administration, attempting to get out before the stink hit them. And, you know, it's already too late. You worked for that man. You supported that man. You defended that man for so long.
You did his dirty work,
Yeah,
Betsy
every
Voss.
one of them. Yeah, every one of them. Yeah, well, I mean, Betsy DeVos is was well on her way to being one of the worst people in the history of America long before she ever joined up with Trump. Her family is worth billions, her personally as a billionaire, and a lot of it on the backs of extracting money from the education system and away from our children's educations. Through the charter school systems, through just everything you can imagine wrong with the education system in America. Her family are the ones that figured out how to exploit that to the tune of billions of dollars. So she's already horrible, already on everyone on our site's shit list, and then she went to work for Trump. So, I mean, obviously, you know, he picked the best people, as he said he would. So
except for all the ones that he fired, who he then like didn't really know, and
yeah. So, you know, one of the funnier things from this weekend was Forbes. Forbes came out and said that if any organizations, journalistic or otherwise, hire any of the former Trump cabinet or employees, anyone that Trump appointed, they will be considered lie factories and disinformation vectors. So when Forbes and its various publications are vetting things for truthfulness and or reporting on how likely you are able to actually believe something out of these various you know, reporters and or organizations, they will be considered liars. They will be considered places full of nothing but disinformation, because no longer can they be trusted. So any organization that hires Tommy Lahren or any other employee of Trump's White House will get that moniker in their eyes, and that will be part of their editorial process, that they will be marked as such in anything they print.
So Devnell, yeah, in the chat they're saying, you know, the blame for this past week will land on the shoulders of a few. The wrongdoings of the many are still being tallied. All politicians are fucking crooked.
100%.
Exactly true. I do want to use this to loop back to some of what we were saying at the beginning. What happened in DC obviously needed people who were insiders to help make it happen. Trump wanting this insurrection to happen is part of why it was able to happen. He was able to keep the National Guard out of the way. He was able to do a couple of other things. And he obviously got the crowd all stirred up to go invade the Capitol building. And there are other people, the woman who was posting Pelosi's location live as it was happening, the cop that we mentioned earlier who was guiding people around, the supervisors who made sure to put a bunch of black cops where they were going to get hurt.
Right.
If you haven't already read the article with the two black Capitol Hill cops talking about the shit that happened to them, I strongly recommend that because it does lay bare the racist fucking underpinnings of all of this. But it also wouldn't have happened if nobody showed up. There was an army there, and to make an army appear in DC, they don't just spread from the earth. They are coming from places, and we know for a fact that they came from all over the US, and it was regional organizers like Mark Sahady, fucking treasonous piece of shit. Those people who got the buses, who organized, who got people there, who recruited, those people are also responsible for what happened. Even the ones who decided, oh, I don't really want to have a revolution and stayed outside the building, they still helped make it happen. And all of us, wherever you live in the US, if you're outside the US, you've got your own problems, and I will let you worry about your own problems. But every single person in the US, you are living somewhere where there are probably Nazi sympathizers. And you may be living close to organizers who helped make this thing happen. And you have a job, and that is to make sure that your community knows what happened.
There are a lot of people out there organizing the next series of events. So there's various rumors around the communities who are watching. There are various chats you can get into, most of them on systems like Telegram and whatnot, where it's just full of the Nazis and fascists. But there are supposedly events on the 17th, events on the 20th that will happen in DC. But they are also working on organizing in their own terms. They say, at the state capitals of all 50 states. Multiple of these channels are working on them actually being armed protests. One of the biggest ones with upwards of 30,000 people in a Telegram chat organizing this, which, of course, people like us are in. To monitor, did a poll of their users, and they asked if there should be armed violence at the next event, and meaning they would be the ones bringing that armed violence against what they called the state and the state's friends. And 10,000 people, 10,900 and something people actually said yes. How many of those actually turn into any real, armed insurrectionaries who actually, take up the guns? I highly doubt it. Most of them are, to be blunt, weak basement dwelling pussies. But, still, it is not a good sign for things when you see that many people claiming from, their real phone numbers and, accounts that are easily tracked, because Telegram isn't that secure, It's disheartening. Reading some of the chat here. Yeah, the feds have sent out a press release about all of that. I mean, it's weird to find so many people saying stuff like that these days, but I get it. Man. We are in a weird state where there's a bunch of lefties out there doxing people in hopes that they get arrested. And here we all also are screaming abolish the prison system and abolish, in the police and defund the police. So, we've got to find a middle ground where these fascists get dealt with, but we also, defund the police. That's just the middle ground I'm looking for. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here. It'll also be interesting to see just how much the police respond to these next two events. Because on the 17th and the 20th, if either of them actually happen at any of the scale that they are trying to get, it will be interesting to see if the police forces actually do a show of force and keep people from getting into any other buildings or destroying anything. If they don't, we will just, have more proof for everyone, even the people who didn't believe us, that they are the same people. It's that whole Spider-Man meme pointing at each other, it's you, it's me, I mean, that whole thing, and that's what I think is going to happen. I don't think that if they go there on the 17th or the 20th that we're going to get any better response. I don't have any faith in the police forces to do anything against a mostly white crowd.
I mean, I have seen cops be nasty to a mostly white crowd when
But
the
only to
mostly
far
white
lefties
crowd
dressed
is
in,
yelling
black
at
bloc.
Nazis. It's
Yeah.
I don't know. On the one hand, the cops and the National Guard have a lot of egg on their face, and saving face is a big thing with people with that mindset. So there is a chance that they, not because they're good people, but because, well, I don't like all these people saying I'm a wuss and I'm in it, I'm pulling for the Nazis. I'm not a Nazi, and then go chest thump, performatively and keep the Nazis from doing something. There's a chance. I don't know. There's also always the argument that there were tons of off-duty cops in that crowd. One of the articles is very clear. A bunch of them were showing their badges, I'm on your side.
Oh yeah, one of the cops who's now currently on suspension pending investigation. The people he was showing to the right offices, a couple of them, there's articles out there talking about this, showed badges from their local community wherever they happen to be cops, saying, show us where Pelosi's office is, show us where Schumer's office is. And I mean, it's systematic. It is systemic. It is deep. It is horrible. As for Samson, yes, I would love to see all of our local alt-right organizers go to hell. They all need to get in trouble for this. I will say that if Samson was there at the event on Wednesday, of all of the local Boston people, he did the best job of staying out of photos, because I haven't seen a single one of him yet actually there. So, damn. If anyone finds one, I'd love to see it.
Pretty please.
Yeah, so anyone in the chat have any questions about any of this? Anything they want us to talk about? Yeah, the entirety of the Boston Fash needs to go. I mean, the entirety of all Fash needs to go. But you're gonna have people born with various birth defects that just lead them there. Or environments. I mean, environments need to change.
Are you really gonna argue that Nazis are bad using fucking eugenicist rhetoric? Come on, buddy, you're better than that.
Absolutely not.
You are better than that.
No, I'm calling them all dumb to their core, like so dumb. Oh my god. Where do we go from here, assuming all-out civil war is averted?
For one, assuming all-out civil war is averted, and you live in the U.S., you better know who your fucking representatives are. That's step one, because you are going to need to harass them nonstop for the next 4 years to actually get anything done, because these bitches will want to go back to brunch. There's a lot to clean up.
Yeah, where do we go from here? I mean, I don't see it. My problem is I think that people on the right will get quieter if, I'm talking like, your rural grandmother and aunt, right? Like, those types, your to use one of the Pennsylvania groups, wording, your drunk uncle who you don't want to argue again with at Thanksgiving, those types would get a lot quieter if UBI, Medicare for All, and everything else started getting them healthier, happier, more stable. Like they would calm down a little if that was happening, and they don't seem to understand that the far left are going to be the ones that give them those types of things, not the right wingers. But my issue is that I don't think that the people that we keep electing, like Joe Biden, are going to give us any of those things. So I think the only tools we have to use against them are literally giving them the same level of comfort that we all hope for, the stability of a proper society, one that actually takes care of its people, will get people to stop railing against that society from whatever, extremist viewpoint they have. Not all of them, but it'll take a lot of their support away, and that, so many more people will be so much more stable and comfortable that they will focus their efforts elsewhere. However, I don't think Biden and Kamala Harris are the team to get any of that done. This is the person who gave us the crime bill and the Patriot Act and a self-described top cop. I just don't see them giving us the stuff that we actually need. Because I don't think any arguing with the right-wingers, especially the QAnon believers, is ever going to change their minds. They don't seem to have the capacity for critical thinking that allows you to use logic to teach them something. There are some people who are center-right who seem to be able to slowly be brought into understanding, but any of the far-right is just, they're too far gone. The only thing that would work is making their lives so comfortable that they don't have much to complain about, and then they'll just start making up stuff that's even 10 times more crazy, which will fracture any larger group into much smaller groups that then infight a whole lot. Similar to the left, we are made up of a lot of small little in-groups that fight each other more than anyone else.
One thing that I think you should... We all know where your thoughts on religion are.
For anyone who doesn't, I am a devout atheist, not just an agnostic. All religion is wrong, and everyone who believes in it has a virus. Something wrong with them. I am unashamed in my view.
It's really important when you're talking about specifically the Q crazy go nuts section, but also at a certain level, the rest of them, you have to treat it like it's a cult. And people can escape cults and get out of it and get back to some semblance of normal living. We know people who are former cultists. But you can't do that labor for somebody. That's something that they have to choose, that they want to get out. You can support people who are trying, but you can't do it for them. And I think you are right that giving people, making sure the baseline is a little bit less stressful will give people a little bit more spoons to maybe do some of that internal work to not be insane. But I don't think it's just that these people are inherently stupid. These people were indoctrinated into a cult, and they made choices to walk down that path. But it's also a really interesting, to use, Dawkins, a memeplex. It's a large entity made up of memes, and this entity that is Trumpsterism, it's really resistant to outside attacks, and it's because they've ingested this incredibly toxic, dangerous idea.
Yeah.
One of the things that I brought up at the thing, and probably not relevant to anybody in this chat, but I deal with a lot of white moms, and one of the things you have to do when you are a mom to white children is figure out how you're not going to raise Nazis. Because a lot of these people were raised by liberal parents, and then they're out here storming the Capitol for fucking white supremacy. And it's because liberal moms don't generally know what to look for when it comes to the racist dog whistles, the various places where kids are getting recruited into, racism light as young as, 10 and 12 years old. Um, there's a whole pipeline that goes from disaffected teenager to Nazi storming the castle, and disrupting that process is part of being anti-fascist too.
Yeah, that is right. So I would like to address a couple things in the chat. One, Bellamy 420 makes the comment about, it sounding like religious atheism. That is kind of the joke of why I call it devout, when I talk about my atheism, because I understand that I am pretty far gone down that path, almost as much down that path as the religious people are in my point of view. So I get the kind of almost irony in how atheist I am. It's almost a religion to me in and of itself. So yeah, the irony is not lost on me of my own point of view. But yeah, and as for, Satan being pretty cool, being said in the chat, again, I've brought this up once other time on the chat, but it's important to remember that when you read the Bible, if you actually pay attention, this God character kills, like, depending on how you read it, it's somewhere between 2 million and 8 million. And that really depends on your interpretation of exactly how he killed. But it's millions. And the most you can really blame on Satan directly is 8 if you're really trying hard, but probably 7. And so we're told one of them's the bad guy, though. And it's the one who killed only the smaller number of people. I don't know. I find that odd. I just think that's, it's really hard to suspend my disbelief at that point. My ability to believe in the fiction is kind of lost there.
Now, there is an argument against that.
Sure.
The argument there is that by convincing Eve and through her Adam to eat the apple. I can't
let this pass. Hail Eris. Anyways, continue.
Bring up Discordianism next time I'm on. But by tempting man to sin, Satan doomed everybody to die, and that's worse because that's everybody forever and always. And God only kills a couple of people for being bad.
Yeah. So
that is. I'm not saying I believe it. Just like next time you're mulling your counter arguments, make sure that's on your list.
Sin guilt there. That's it's a whole different thing. Just imagine,
I may not be Catholic anymore, but like I can't forget. I will always be ex-Catholic.
For the chat, just imagine that. That's my wife. I am devout anti-religious atheist. And she is spiritual. So some of our discussions get quite interesting. But yes, somehow we are going down a tangent. I was just trying to address a thing. Thanks for the bits there. Love it. That's huge. Anyone else wants to use bits? I hear those are good things. So, yeah, I mean, I want to just make it very clear my stance on one thing for everyone, again, leaving the White House a week early. You should have left 4 years ago, and if you were brought in after he fired some random other person who he called the best at the time of hiring them, you should have left the next day, or maybe not taken the job. So it's just, you don't get any points from us for leaving now. That's not a thing. You did this. This is not just Trump. Trump cannot do what he did without enablers. And that's you. That's all of you who worked for him. So you're not getting away from this one. You're not somehow shedding the shame of this. You are bad people. Yeah,
Greg,
I agree.
I love your chat, and I am so excited for the next time I get to come on when we get to really dig into the religious stuff, because I am
oh boy
here for it, especially Germany before me. You better come back next time I'm on, because I
We
am
will have
super
her
here for
back in a
this.
couple weeks, and we will do a our various takes when it comes to religion.
I'm gonna
And
have a book to plug.
you are. She has been working on an awesome book. I was raised in Texas in a very Baptist area, and there's a lot of interesting stories there. I will tell one of them when me and her are doing that as the thing, and not an hour and a half into this. Yeah, so I had told Anna that this would be about an hour. We're coming up on an hour and a half here soon. How's it going there? 11th. I like it. I like it. So yes, she is.
If anybody in the chat has any quick questions on the
Yeah.
subject of organizing locally, talking with your local politicians about radical shit,
Yes.
that type of stuff, you can do that now.
Yeah,
I'm
for
going to
anyone who
be in
wasn't
the
here at the
Discord for a
beginning.
little bit.
Yeah, for anyone who wasn't here at the beginning, we talked about organizing locally yesterday and the last few days against local fascism and against local fascists who are actually in our small hometown here in Malden. We have the the one of the people who runs Super Happy Fun America, Mark Sahady, and they again are well known for the Boston Straight Pride Parade, which was of course bigoted and hateful and everything you can imagine. But they are just a rebranding of Resist Marxism, which again, it's Samson, it's John Hugo, it's Mark Sahady, it's all of these just horrible people. And they are a rebranding of Boston Free Speech. It continues like to be rebranded over and over and over. I don't know if they're trying to shed the stink of it or whatever, but at this point, I think their new name has really stuck, and they have a website up and all these other things. So
It's a terrible name, so I'm not surprised they're sticking with it.
of course,
They have the worst taste, and I hate their flag so much. Every time I have to look at that stupid flag, a piece of my heart just dies. Like, you guys have to understand that I do graphic design, and that flag, that straight pride flag is so bad. They picked the worst pink, and anytime you're putting a stroke around an element that you have put on top of a background, you picked the wrong color. I'm so angry about that flag. I'm so angry about that flag.
I would say, Rod, that's a hard one to answer without saying something legally actionable. But because I don't want to encourage the things that I know would actually accomplish that, live on air. I think that's problematic. However, I'm sure there are people in private encrypted chats and places that would love to answer that question for you, because there are answers to that question.
Greg, I did pass you a link in the Zoom chat to the 40 Ways to Fight Fascists.
I cannot
this is something
do anything about that.
What?
But
you're on.
If I open the Zoom chat thing up, you go all weird. Because the thing on screen here is capturing that window, and when it changes its dimensions, it's crazy.
Anyway,
you can paste it into the chat.
I don't have an account. Wait, I can do this extremely sideways. I can go put it in the Discord, and somebody from the Discord can help us out. Come on, guys.
Yes, join us on the Discord there. We have fun. I'd like to bring up that one of the fun things we did, thanks to Budoshin and a few of the others in chat here, is last night we had movie night. So we had we did a little watch party and watched some old dystopian movies. You might have seen Ray Liotta mentioned in the chat earlier, and that is because he was the star of one of the movies we watched. So I say star lightly. It was not a well-produced movie. But so by all means, we're thinking about doing a kind of Sunday watch party thing. So join over on the Discord there, and we'll have some fun with it.
And thank you, McStabbo, for grabbing that link for me. and Dr. Benway for also grabbing that link. That is Legal Ways to Fight Fascism. It is a good gateway drug for the liberals and other people who are scared of getting punched in your life. It's a good shorthand introduction, and you can read it for free online, and you can pass that link around in respectable circles, which is great because getting respectable people to say that they're against fascism shouldn't be as hard as it is.
Yeah, and as always, on every episode, before we go, we really like to make it a point to mention that every day is Punch a Nazi Day. So, you know, there's never a time in which punching a Nazi is a bad thing. So, there you go.
Black lives good, Nazis bad.
Indeed. All right, everyone. We are gonna... Well, actually, before I go, yes, 11th, we do talk a lot about politics. We talk a lot about current events. We also bring in a lot of politically active people. So, you know, it's a lot of current events, a lot of what's going on, but also a lot of activism. So sometimes it's going to be activism related to other things, you know, mutual aid, food assistance, things like that, how to organize better at the local level for those things. So we're generally just a bunch of activist nerds, you know, and so it's going to be stuff related to what we care about most, and hopefully informational in ways that help activists get more action done.
Now, if Logan asked about proper punch throwing, and you want to try to keep your wrist straight when you do it, and you don't want to have your thumb inside because that's how you get your thumb broken, and you don't want your thumb up
that
here.
That is a fist. That is a broken thumb. Do not do that.
I'm the worst, and I lead with this, which hurts a lot, but I'm gonna get my wrist broken one of these days. So don't be like me.
You're coming in 11th at the kind of end of the stream where we're slowly winding down and just kind of jabbering on now about whatever anyone wants to talk about in the chat or anything else. You know, earlier in the stream we kind of stay focused on the topics. I like this because I like interacting with the chat. I like having fun, making it kind of a two-way street. Yeah, definitely. You know. So anything else, any topics we missed? 70 terabytes of Parler. All right. Everyone wants to hear about that. We mentioned it a little earlier, but what I will say, which is hilarious, is the 70 terabytes of Parler. It's a lot. And we love the person who did the actual dump. It has now been shared with multiple journalists. There is an IRC for it where they're working through it. I know a group of journalists who are now feeding all of the 70 terabytes, the video parts and the image parts into facial recognition. Which I both love and hate, right? It's similar to, you know, wishing the cops had done more against the right-wingers, like, but also defend the police. Like, it's this weird intersection where I don't really like that we have to be standing there right now, and the fascists forced us to this point. So doxing fascists is correct. Yeah, Donk is amazing. Love you, Donk. So the data includes all the original videos, all the original images that were uploaded, every parlay, which is their version of a tweet, including all the deleted ones, and then all the profile information. And so right now, people at major news organizations are starting to build tools to pump all of that data through the APIs that exist for this. So Azure has an API for this, and AWS has an API for this called Recognition. And I believe they're going to be pushing them through those. But funny thing, I think, is that Parler was built by someone who helped kind of, you know, make AWS what it is today, who then left to start Parler. Then Parler was removed from AWS, and now journalists are going to use a feature of AWS to identify a ton of the users who showed up and went into the Capitol. Kind of like this giant circle of it's just, I think it's hilarious. in some weird way. There's some irony there somehow built into it. Um, yeah. Lemon we are 11th. We do talk a lot about U.S. politics, but in the greater scheme of things, we will, if we were in the middle of like the beginnings of Brexit right now, we would probably be talking about that stuff too. There is a lot of foreign politics that will come up on the show, and by all means, if anyone has any ideas for topics they want us to cover, people they want us to get on the show, join the Discord and let us know. Thanks for the raid, Chase W. Mitchell. So by all means, if you have local politics you want us to talk about, anything you want us to get clued in that we don't know about because we're so U.S. focused, let us know. We have a Discord, and I am happy to bring up all of those topics. I worked with a lot of the occupiers when we were doing Occupy Wall Street, and then all the Occupy the other cities. With a lot of the foreign ones over in Europe and a couple in Asia. With all the anonymous stuff that we did, all the way up through even like the ACTA and SOPA and PIPA fights, we worked a lot with mostly our German counterparts because they were doing the kind of the greatest brunt of the work for those protests, organizing throughout Europe. When we work with a lot of the people around Tor and whatnot, of course you're working with a lot of people in Germany. So we try and keep it international, but for the most part, when we talk just general politics, it's U.S. politics because the people running the show are American.
It's been pretty rough being in the Americas for the last, been pretty rough in the U.S. for the last 4 years.
And again, I think everyone can understand that we've kind of had some stuff to talk about here. I realize other countries do too, but it has been quite the last 4 years.
That is kind of how it goes when things get in a crisis. Everybody has to tend to the fire that is in their backyard right now, and this is our backyard.
It really is. It really is. So, we've covered the no-fly list, the local organizing, the impeachment articles have been filed, the 25th Amendment is being worked on what it would look like if they filed it. Parler is down, but moving to Epic, which is the same service that holds Gab and hosts them. Rob Monster is the person who runs Epic. For anyone who doesn't believe it, you can go to their about page. That's his real name. His real last name is Monster, and he hosts all of the Nazis and fascists. So that's sad and ironic at the same time, and I don't know, it's horrible. But someone in the chat earlier did say, it's kind of like interesting to watch because Gab already has trouble scaling and handling any kind of, influx of users. Once Parler lands on that service, how badly is it going to impact that service's ability to actually deliver, any kind of a good experience to the users? I don't think it will scale well. So yeah, exactly. Who knows? But remember, Devnal, that they have the Mercers backing them, and also good old Danny Bongo there. He's investing and willing to put more money in, and with his following, he does make a fair amount of cash. So I think they'll be able to pay what Epic needs them to pay to keep them online. Whether they can actually get scale working over there is a whole nother thing. I just don't think it'll be anywhere near as good as when they were on AWS. Yes, exactly.
I mean, it'll be funny watching them fail.
We are all going to watch this fail. I mean, we all are watching this failure and laughing the entire time. Watching the deplatforming of all of the right-wingers has been hilarious. I am enjoying every bit of it.
All right. I think it might be time for us to run away and eat some food.
It is dinner time over here, and we are going to go grab some food, everyone. So this is awesome.
Thank you, Doxy.
Yes, we are going to bring Anna back for a few more of these. Yes. Do you all buy into the argument that deplatforming is going to lead to further echo chambers? You know, I am not a fan of echo chambers. I will give you that. The problem is we were already stuck in echo chambers. You know, no matter how large Parler actually got, it was an echo chamber. Like, you were really yelled at and threatened with violence over there if you were not far right and Q believing MAGA cultist. So we are already in echo chambers, even though they might be large. Further echo chambers, I mean, you know, the problem with that is I don't think the right really has the ability to keep a solid enough platform up, and a lot of them will just continue to find ways to make accounts on the platforms we're all on. You know?
Getting to a point where we all live in something close to the same reality is I don't even know where we would begin to start with that, because Facebook existing alone is doing so much damage to the different truths that people are consuming. It's every bad thing that people said about postmodernism and very little of the good stuff, and that is disappointing.
Indeed, indeed. I really appreciate that raid there, Chase. I would like to state for the record that we've been going for a little over a month now, I think, and 2, maybe. That's our first raid. So you win. There you go. First raid, everybody. Well, good job having 4 viewers your first weekend. It's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff.
Good stuff. Yeah, so yep. No worries. Anyways, everybody, I want to say good night. I will be on the Discord, so will Anna, so will everyone else here. So if you all want, please join the Discord, come over, chat. If you have show ideas, by all means. If you want to join us this coming Sunday for a movie night where we all watch some amazing films. I think we're going to watch like War Games and Real Genius, 2 absolutely great films. Yeah, absolutely. You'll get that subscribe button. It is not it is not that hard to get. It's getting the partner that takes forever. The path for affiliate is not that hard. You'll get there. All right, everyone.
All right. We gotta go.
Good night.
Good night.